Shields are an incredibly common technology in the Star Wars universe, used to do everything from protecting gigantic capital ships from incoming turbolaser fire, to keeping atmosphere within a hangar while facilitating easy ship movement, to providing extra security. That being said, one area which surprisingly doesn't see a lot of shield integration is infantry warfare. We'll examine why on today's Star Wars Legends lore video. Hey guys, this is EckhartsLadder. Hello and welcome to another video. Before we begin, yesterday you guys did vote for something different, and I will be getting that video done soon, but I need to do a bit more reading. Anyway, today we're talking about something that I do think is a little more interesting anyway, personal energy shields. If you're not sure what I mean, personal energy shields are exactly what they sound like, a shield that surrounds an individual, providing protection of some sort. I'm being a bit ambiguous here, as some systems use only ray shielding and thus protect only against energy, while others, like the Echani energy shield, also protect against physical attacks. Typically, unlike say a bubble shield from Halo, a personal energy shield is actually worn by the user. And these are the ones that I'm talking about today, the ones that envelop an entire being, or are at least attached to a person. Compare that with the handheld Gungan style shields that we sometimes see. That's not what I'm talking about today. So let's talk about droidicas. I think they present a good argument for the effectiveness of personal shields. I mean, they're really the only soldier droid that uses them, and they're incredibly effective and feared. I mean, in the Phantom Menace, they even overwhelm a pair of Jedi. So what's keeping the proliferation from becoming more mainstream? Well, this technology wasn't always as rare as it is in modern Star Wars. During the days of the Old Republic, energy shields were still somewhat common, although even in that era, advances in shield design were far outpaced by increasing blaster yields. This is important because most energy shields, with again some exceptions like the ones I mentioned earlier, protect only against blaster fire, and were ablative, meaning they weakened as they absorbed damage, especially in a short period of time. By the modern era, the naturally inefficient nature of the technology, and the fact that blasters were comparatively much more advanced, meant that personal shields fell extraordinarily quickly and were thus only ever activated in emergencies during the heat of combat. And what's more, after sustaining the damage, the energy shield would either need to be replaced with expensive power cells or attached to a charging station, which isn't just something you can do on the fly. And really, the burnout time was so significant that the only real way that shields could be effective in any sort of sense was if the user had a heavy power pack. For that reason, most armies and soldiers would instead just opt for heavier blast-resistant armor. And for that reason, energy shields were only really used by non-combatants, or at least those only seeing light combat. For example, unarmored Imperial officers were known to sometimes keep these devices on their belts, just as a backup. Still, even knowing this existed, it's not something we see actually in the lore very often. This might have been because of one of the other risks of using energy shields. As explained by the Essential Guide to Warfare, personal shields subjected the user to not insignificant amounts of radiation and magnetic forces. What's more, they were prone to catastrophic failure, which not only caused the shield to collapse, but often also flash-cooked the operator. Not very pleasant. These risks were obviously a little less concerning with droids, which is why they're really the only ones who prominently use shields. Radiation isn't as concerning, and obviously power packs could be built into the droid itself. And that's basically it. Energy shields weren't used because they weren't that effective, and they were also very expensive to produce. However, we shouldn't forget the fact that energy shields had a major effect on galactic history. Vibroblades and other melee weapons were created to directly attack a ray-shielded warrior, which got me thinking, perhaps a good way to actually use shield technology would be to switch to projectile weapons and have the shields only block energy bolts. That way, your shots go out, but theirs can't go in. And some of you are thinking, well, don't droidicas do this already? And it seems like droidicas can fire because their arms actually go through the shield itself. This wouldn't be necessary for my method, and a single shield could be deployed to protect multiple people. Anyway, on to Kindred Bad, who asks what was the greatest downfall that led to the defeat of the Yuuzhan Vong? Now, this topic clearly deserves a full video, but I'll be brief here. The Vong could have won their war against the galaxy. Their technology was different, but certainly not worse, and in many occasions, their technology directly gave them the advantage over the galaxy's warriors. I think they had three main problems. First, they invaded at a bad time, as the New Republic was not facing any major active threats, and the galaxy was fairly peaceful. Even the Empire and the New Republic were on fairly good terms. Second, they overextended themselves. The Vong, by the time they captured Coruscant and other core worlds, were very low on ships and warriors. Ships weren't a big deal, they can be regrown, but warriors have to be bred, raised, and that takes time. The Vong really couldn't afford to be overly aggressive and were pretty much limited to protecting the planets they did have. Had they been a bit more conservative, they most likely could have taken out Mon Calamari and just destroyed the GFFA once and for all. Finally, we have the Vong's strict adherence to their doctrine and religion, and I think this is the most major factor. For example, Yuuzhan Vong Shapers, who fixed or created technology, were limited in what they could do by what existed already within the protocols of the Konkasa. This was bad because no new protocols had been ended for some time, leading to a degree of technological stagnation, and those who did want to innovate or adapt to the technology in the new galaxy were often seen as heretics and killed. But more of this for another day. Thank you so much for the great question. If you'd like to have yours perhaps answered by me in a future video, make sure to leave it down below with the hashtag AskEck. Until then guys, this has been EckhartsLadder. As always, thanks for watching, and may the Force be with you.